The ocean waves crashed against the hull of the research vessel as Professor Park watched the recovery team haul the alien craft aboard. What had initially appeared on radar as a meteorite had turned out to be something far more significant, humanity's first concrete evidence that they were not alone in the universe. "Careful with the outer shell," Park called out. "We don't know how stable it is." The craft's metal exterior bore scorch marks and what appeared to be weapons damage. As the team secured it to the deck, a section of the hull suddenly shifted, revealing a cockpit. Inside, a being with iridescent skin and 4 eyes stared back at them. "Help," it rasped in perfect English, shocking everyone present. "The consortium, they're coming." Professor Park stepped forward cautiously. The alien's breathing was labored, its skin changing colors rapidly from blue to purple. Medical staff rushed forward with equipment, but they hesitated, unsure how to treat a completely unknown life form. "Who are you?" Park asked, keeping her voice calm despite her racing heart. "Tahoe," the alien managed. "Coalition scout. Ship damaged. Escaped." Over the next few hours, as doctors tried desperately to stabilize him, Tahoe shared fragments of information that would change Earth forever. His people had been fighting a war against the consortium, a group of aggressive species that conquered and absorbed other civilizations. The coalition had been losing ground for decades. "Earth, hidden until now," Tahoe explained weakly. "My ship's distress signal. They will track it." Despite their best efforts, Tahoe's condition worsened. Before dying, he pressed a small device into Park's hand. "Knowledge, to help prepare." News of the encounter spread rapidly through government channels. Within 3 days, the United Nations called an emergency session. Leaders from every nation gathered to face this new reality. Earth was about to be pulled into an interstellar war. Director Sunwoo, a former military scientist, was appointed to lead the newly formed United Earth Defense Initiative. Her first task was to analyze the device Tahoe had given them. It contains technical specifications for his ship and basic information about both coalition and consortium technology. Sunwoo explained to world leaders, "We have perhaps months before they trace his path here. We need to be ready." Teams of scientists worked around the clock to understand the alien technology. Engineers marveled at its complexity, but found that many principles built upon human scientific theories, just taken to levels they hadn't yet achieved. "It's like finding out someone's been reading the same book as you, but they're chapters ahead," remarked one physicist. Progress happened faster than anyone expected. Human adaptability proved remarkable. Within 3 weeks, they had reverse-engineered Tahoe's propulsion system and built a basic communication array based on his specifications. Then came the day that confirmed everything. Earth's new deep space sensors detected a large vessel entering the solar system. Panic spread until they received a transmission. "People of Earth," came the message. "This is Commander Hyun of the coalition vessel Harmony. We come in peace and urgency." The world watched as the coalition ship entered orbit. It was beautiful, a flowing design that seemed to shimmer between states of matter. When permission to land was granted, a delegation of 5 different alien species emerged. Commander Hyun, who looked similar to Tahoe, but with darker skin tones, met with Earth's representatives at a hastily prepared facility. "We followed Tahoe's last transmission," Hyun explained. "We feared we would find only ruins. Instead, we find you not only alive, but adapting our technology." He gestured to the communication array humans had built. "This took my people generations to develop. You did it in weeks." Director Sunwoo stood firm. "We're quick learners when survival depends on it." Hyun nodded slowly. "That is precisely what the coalition needs. We have been fighting a losing war for too long. Our scientists have grown predictable, our tactics stale." His 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "You may be exactly what we've been looking for." As the meeting continued into the night, the stars shone down on a planet whose place in the galaxy had forever changed. The training room hummed with energy as pilot Do-Hyun gripped the controls of the coalition fighter simulator. Sweat beaded on his forehead as holographic enemy vessels swarmed around his ship. The simulation was set to expert level, a difficulty that took most coalition pilots years to master. "Pull up, bank right," shouted Instructor Juwu from behind him. The four-armed alien's mandibles twitched nervously as Doyon executed a tight turn that should have been impossible for a novice. The virtual fighter responded to Doyon's commands instantly, weaving through enemy fire with unexpected grace. Juwu watched in amazement as the human pilot dispatched 3 enemy fighters in quick succession using a technique no coalition pilot had ever attempted. When the simulation ended, the scoreboard flashed with a new record. Doyon stepped out of the pod, wiping his brow casually as if he hadn't just rewritten the training manual. "How did you anticipate that attack pattern?" Juwu asked, mandibles clicking in astonishment. "That formation isn't even in the training materials yet." Doyon shrugged. "It reminded me of an old video game I used to play. The targeting algorithm has similar limitations." Juwu stared at the human, baffled by how Doyon could connect a leisure activity from Earth to complex space combat tactics. This was what made humans different. They didn't think in straight lines. News of Doyon's success spread quickly through the training facility. Soon, coalition commanders were requesting human pilots for their ships, impressed by their natural instincts and creative problem-solving. Meanwhile, on Earth, the landscape was changing. As the consortium pushed deeper into coalition territory, refugees from a dozen alien species found sanctuary on the once isolated planet. Temporary settlements grew around major cities, creating strange new communities where humans and aliens worked side by side. At the Seoul Research Institute, Dr. Minho worked late into the night. Her lab had become a hub of activity, with coalition engineers bringing their most challenging problems to the human scientist. Tonight, she was focused on shield technology. "The issue isn't in the power source," she muttered, studying the coalition designs. "It's in the approach." The coalition engineers watched as she dismantled their carefully constructed shield models. Their defensive systems had followed the same principles for centuries: create stable, consistent energy fields that absorb or deflect incoming attacks. After 3 days without sleep, Minho called everyone to her lab. Dark circles underscored her eyes, but excitement radiated from her face. "Look at this," she said, activating a small prototype. The shield that formed wasn't the smooth, consistent barrier the aliens expected. Instead, it flickered and shifted in seemingly random patterns. "It's failing," said one coalition engineer. "No," Minho smiled. "It's working perfectly. The shield modulation doesn't need to be stable. It needs to be unpredictable." She demonstrated with a targeting laser. Each time it fired, the shield shifted frequency, making it impossible to lock onto. Consortium weapons are designed to analyze and penetrate predictable shield patterns, she explained to her stunned colleagues. But if the shield never establishes a pattern? The coalition engineers stared in silence. They had considered such an approach theoretically impossible for centuries. Their mathematics said random modulations would create fatal weaknesses. Yet Minho's prototype stood firm against every test they threw at it. Within weeks, production began on the new shield systems. Human manufacturers, retooled after first contact, worked alongside coalition engineers to outfit both Earth vessels and coalition ships with the revolutionary technology. 6 months after humans learned they weren't alone in the universe, the first human combat vessels prepared to join the coalition defense fleet. The ships were smaller than their alien counterparts, but integrated human innovations that made them surprisingly formidable. Commander Taman stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's first dedicated warship. Around him, a crew of humans and coalition advisors prepared for departure. "All systems operational," reported his first officer. "We're ready." As Earth's first combat fleet lifted from the lunar shipyards, news spread throughout coalition space. The humans had joined the fight, and they were bringing new tactics with them. The consortium, confident after centuries of steady advances, had no idea what was coming. Captain Juno stood on the bridge of the UES Resilience, his face calm despite the tension in his shoulders. Through the main view screen, he watched as his small fleet of 5 Earth vessels moved into position alongside 3 larger coalition ships. The stars glittered against the darkness of space, peaceful for now. "Status report," Junho said quietly. "All ships in position, Captain," his first officer replied. Coalition allies confirmed they're ready. Intelligence had reported a consortium battle group moving through this sector, likely unaware of the human coalition force waiting for them. This would be the first direct engagement between human ships and consortium forces. Many in the coalition command had advised against it, believing human vessels weren't ready for such combat. Junho checked the tactical display one last time. "All ships, maintain formation Delta," he ordered, his voice steady. "Remember your training and trust your instincts." The bridge fell silent as they waited. Minutes ticked by. Then sensors lit up with warnings. "Hyperspace rupture detected," called the sensor officer. Consortium signatures confirmed. The enemy fleet materialized before them. 12 ships, including 3 massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the coalition vessels. Their hulls gleamed with a metallic blue sheen that marked them as belonging to the consortium's elite fleet. As expected, the consortium followed their standard battle doctrine. Their ships arranged themselves in a perfect arrowhead formation, focusing their initial barrage on the largest coalition vessel. Energy weapons flared across space. "Coalition flagship taking heavy fire," reported the communications officer. "Execute attack plan now," Juno ordered. While the coalition ships maintained their defensive positions, the 5 human vessels did something the consortium had never seen before. They accelerated directly toward the enemy fleet, moving in erratic patterns that made targeting nearly impossible. "Launch drones," Junho commanded as they closed the distance. From each human ship, dozens of small objects burst forth. To consortium sensors, they appeared as nothing more than debris. Fragments too small to waste targeting resources on. This was exactly what the humans had counted on. "Drones at 70% deployment," the tactical officer announced. "Consortium still hasn't responded to them." Junho nodded. "Continue evasive maneuvers. Keep their attention on our ships." The human vessels darted between the massive consortium ships, drawing fire but never staying still long enough to be hit directly. Meanwhile, the tiny drones attached themselves to the hulls of the enemy vessels. Each carried a specialized electromagnetic pulse generator designed specifically to target consortium weapon systems. "Drones in position," the tactical officer reported. "Ready on your command." Junho took a deep breath. Now, across the battlefield, the drones activated simultaneously. Electrical surges coursed through the consortium ships. On the view screen, Junho watched as weapon ports went dark across the enemy fleet. "All consortium primary weapons offline," the tactical officer confirmed, disbelief in his voice. The coalition ships, now recovered from the initial assault, joined the humans in a coordinated attack on the disabled consortium vessels. Without their main weapons, the once fearsome fleet could not mount an effective defense. The battle was over in less than an hour. 7 consortium capital ships had been captured intact, including 1 dreadnought. The rest had retreated in disarray. Not a single human or coalition vessel had been destroyed. In the aftermath, Junho stood face to face with the captured consortium commander. The tall, gray-skinned alien towered over him. 4 yellow eyes narrowed in confusion and anger. "How?" the commander demanded. "Your technology is inferior. Your species is unknown to us. This should have been impossible." Junho smiled slightly. "That's your mistake. You underestimated us because we're new." As reports of the victory spread across coalition space, something changed. Species that had been fighting a losing war for generations began to hope again. On dozens of worlds, resistance movements gained new members inspired by the human victory. Meanwhile, deep in consortium territory, a covert mission was reaching its climax. Commander G led her team through the shadowy corridors of a consortium command center. Her 6 soldiers moved silently, using technology that masked their life signs from consortium sensors. "Security bypass complete," whispered her tech specialist. "We have access to the central data core." JI nodded and began the download process. Within minutes, they had extracted the consortium's strategic plans for the coming year, information that would save countless lives. Throughout the galaxy, the story spread quickly. A new species had entered the war, primitives by most standards, yet fighting with an intensity and creativity that had shaken consortium confidence for the first time in generations. The galaxy was beginning to shudder. General Minji stood before the holographic map, her face lit by the blue glow of 3 consortium-controlled sectors. Around her, human and alien commanders waited in silence. After months of planning, the joint human coalition forces were ready to strike back. "The consortium has controlled these sectors for 50 years, Minji said, pointing to key positions. "They expect us to target their supply lines, because that's what the coalition has always done." She zoomed in on several blinking points across the map. "These are their communication hubs. We'll hit them all at once. Without these, their ships can't coordinate. Their numbers won't matter if they can't work together." The commanders nodded in agreement. The plan was bold, perhaps even reckless, but that had become humanity's signature in this war. "The offensive begins in 12 hours, Minji concluded. "May fortune favor us all." As the massive counteroffensive launched across 3 sectors, Earth itself faced danger. A consortium strike force, led by their most decorated commander, had slipped past coalition defenses. 6 dreadnoughts and 20 support vessels entered the solar system, heading straight for the planet that had caused them so much trouble. They'd bypassed Jupiter's defense network, reported the sensor officer at Earth Defense Command. Estimated arrival: 3 hours. Admiral Taewon, commander of Earth's home fleet, stood calmly as alerts flashed across his command center. Earth had anticipated this moment and prepared as best they could. "Deploy all vessels," Taewon ordered. "Activate orbital defense platforms. All civilian ships are to seek shelter behind the moon." Earth's defense fleet consisted of only 22 combat-ready vessels, smaller and less powerful than the approaching consortium dreadnoughts. But they had Dr. Minho's shield technology, which had proven its worth in previous engagements. As the consortium fleet approached Earth orbit, Taewon addressed his pilots. "Today we fight not just for the coalition, but for our home, for our families. Hold nothing back." The battle began with a massive consortium barrage that lit up Earth's atmosphere. Orbital defense platforms absorbed the first wave with their shifting shields, but several platforms still exploded under the sustained assault. Human ships darted between the massive consortium vessels, using their superior maneuverability to strike critical systems. 2 consortium dreadnoughts were disabled in the first hour, but 3 human ships were lost. "Shield generators failing on the Dauntless and Victory," reported the fleet coordinator. "They can't take much more." Taewon watched as the situation grew desperate. The remaining consortium dreadnoughts were focusing fire on Earth's major cities. The shields were holding, but weakening. Then came the moment that would be remembered across the galaxy. Captain Yuna of the damaged cruiser Defiance, her ship's weapons destroyed and life support failing, made a decision. "This is Captain Yuna," her message broadcast across all channels. For Earth. The Defiance accelerated to maximum speed, its engines glowing white-hot as it rammed directly into the lead consortium dreadnought. The explosion tore through the enemy vessel's command center, sending it spinning out of formation. Inspired by this sacrifice, 2 more critically damaged human ships followed suit, their captains choosing certain death to protect their homeworld. The consortium attack faltered. Having lost half their force and faced with such unexpected tactics, the remaining ships retreated, jumping to hyperspace with Earth still standing. As news of Earth's desperate defense spread, something unexpected happened on the diplomatic front. Ambassador Seojin had been quietly meeting with representatives of the lesser consortium species, those who had been absorbed into the alliance generations ago. In a secret meeting on a neutral trading station, Seogen faced the representative of the Torah, a reptilian species that had served the consortium for centuries. "You've been fighting their war for generations," Seogen said, sliding a data crystal across the table. "What have they given you in return?" "We offer equal partnership in whatever comes after." The crystal contained evidence of consortium plans that would sacrifice Torah worlds to protect their core species territory. "The humans fight differently," the Torah representative admitted, taking the crystal. "Perhaps it is time we did as well." One by one, fractures appeared in the consortium's unity. Minor rebellions broke out in 3 sectors. Supply ships failed to reach their destinations. In their golden hall on the consortium homeworld, the 6 ruling species called an emergency council for the first time in over 300 years. Their agenda had one item: how to counter the human threat. The neutral space station floated quietly at the edge of a colorful nebula. Inside its main chamber, Ambassador Jinneh stood before the largest gathering of alien species ever assembled in one place. Coalition representatives sat alongside consortium defectors and neutral species that had avoided the war for centuries. "We all want the same thing," Jinneh said, her voice firm and clear. "A galaxy where our children can grow without the shadow of war. Today, we take the first step toward that future." Many delegates nodded in agreement. After generations of fighting, peace seemed finally within reach. Representatives from more than 50 worlds had signed preliminary agreements. Even former enemies were finding common ground. But far away, deep in consortium space, the 6 ruling species had not accepted defeat. In a hidden facility orbiting a dead star, they activated a weapon created centuries ago for just such an emergency. The device began charging. Its target, Earth's sun. "The humans have disrupted the natural order," declared Supreme Leader Call to his fellow rulers. "If we cannot rule the galaxy, we will at least eliminate the source of our downfall." The superweapon was designed to create an artificial wormhole inside a star, causing it to collapse upon itself. No defense could stop it once activated. But the consortium leaders had not counted on betrayal from within. A scientist named Mero, horrified by the planned genocide, transmitted the weapon's energy signature to his human contacts before being discovered and executed. The warning reached Earth with barely hours to spare. Emergency alarms sounded across the planet as scientists confirmed what they were seeing: an energy buildup aimed directly at their sun. "We need more time to coordinate a defense," General Minji told the Emergency Council. "If that weapon fires before we're ready, Earth is doomed." Captain Yunji of the UES Sacrifice volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. Her ship carried experimental technology based on Dr. Minho's shield designs, an energy sink that could potentially absorb the initial blast of the superweapon. "We'll position ourselves between the weapon and the sun," Yunji explained. "It won't stop the attack completely, but it might buy you the time you need." As the Sacrifice raced toward the calculated interception point, Earth's remaining defense fleet prepared to launch everything they had at the weapon's location. They would only get one chance. When the Sacrifice reached position, sensors detected the superweapon beginning its final charging sequence. Yunji opened a channel to Earth Command. "We're in position," she reported calmly. Energy sink primed and ready. Admiral Taewon's voice came through. "Captain, we've calculated the blast will overwhelm your systems in seconds. There's no possibility of survival." Yunji looked around at her crew, all volunteers who understood the mission. "Tell them we did this willingly," she replied before closing the channel. Minutes later, the superweapon fired. A beam of concentrated energy shot across space toward Earth's sun. The Sacrifice positioned itself directly in its path, its modified shields glowing as they absorbed the unimaginable power. For 17 crucial seconds, the ship held. Its hull glowed white-hot, then began to disintegrate. In those 17 seconds, Earth's defense grid locked onto the source of the energy beam and launched everything they had. The Sacrifice and its crew vanished in a flash that momentarily outshone the sun itself. But they had bought enough time. Earth's counterattack struck the consortium weapon platform, destroying it before it could complete its deadly work. The failed attack marked the end of the consortium as a unified force. When news spread of their attempted genocide, the remaining loyal worlds abandoned them. Without their superweapon and with their fleets scattered by defections, the 6 ruling species were forced to sue for peace. 1 year later, the newly formed Galactic Council held its first formal session. Humanity, despite being among the youngest spacefaring species, held a prominent seat. Their reputation as fierce warriors was now matched by their skill as peacekeepers and innovators. Ambassador Janae signed the final peace accord with a steady hand. Next to her signature were those of former enemies now committed to building a new future together. Throughout the galaxy, species that had been fighting for generations watched with a mixture of fear and respect as humans began exploring beyond known space. They carried with them their unique blend of determination, creativity, and adaptability. The galaxy had shuddered when humanity entered the war. Now it held its breath to see what they would do with peace. The end.